Ask Alex. Ask Alex. Because you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know, now you know.
Yeah.
Cool. So why don't you tell me what you're working on? And so you have some issues with expansion, it seems. You want to raise some money.
Yeah, we're a local raw dog food company, and we're in Hawaii. We use premium ingredients, and our goal is to get rid of dog allergies and health issues. So we are very successful in doing that. We have about a 91% customer retention rate over the 5.5 years we've been open.
Yeah.
All of our products are organic, no corn, no soy in their feed. They're free-ranging, pasture-raised. And the issue that people face are starches that are in their dry dog food. When you eliminate the starch, you eliminate all of the dog allergies. You eliminate many of the health issues that come along with feeding that dry food.
Okay, how long have you been doing this?
We've been in business 5.5 years.
Okay, 5.5 years. And what's your challenge now? It sounds like you want to get bigger.
Yeah, we are in Hawaii, so we have a captive audience of about 1 million. 72% are dog owners. So we're going to be going into Safeway. We have a Safeway vendor ID and a Navy Exchange vendor ID. Safeway gets us into about 2,344 stores in the Albertsons family. So when we go to the mainland, we kind of have an in to get into those stores.
Yeah.
And we've got a pretty compelling story. The people who have left here and gone to the mainland look for a food like ours, but there's only about 3 companies that produce the grade and quality with the ingredients that we do. So there is competition, of course, from the big dry dog food companies, the canned dog food companies, the refrigerated dog food companies that make the meat in a tube that you may see in grocery store refrigerators. But the frozen raw category is still relatively small, and we'll be doing freeze-dried dog food out of our same formula. So after we run it through the frozen process, it just goes into a freeze dryer. So we'll be in 2 different aisles of the grocery store. We'll be in the frozen section, and we'll be in the pet food section. Grocery stores are relatively untapped when it comes to high-end, whole animal, 95% protein pet foods. And they don't solve the problem that we do, which is allergies, cancer, heart issues in dogs that we see in just about every dog we meet.
So what's the problem? It sounds like things are going great.
Well, they're going great here, but at some point we're going to reach market saturation here. So in order to expand, this is our incubator, if you will. We're 3,500 miles away from our competition. We're the only one making raw dog food here. On the mainland, the 2 companies that do it are struggling with expansion because they don't have the regulatory expertise. They don't have the Fortune 500 expertise that I do. And those people who got into it had a sick dog. They started making it at home, and then soon other people wanted it, so they built a business model around it.
Okay. And so it sounds like you're fundraising.
Yes.
How much are you looking for?
The amount that we're looking for our 2 facilities that we plan on building is $2.5 million.
And do you bootstrap so far?
Yes, we bootstrapped so far. Last year was $800,000 in gross revenue. We've been profitable since the beginning. By adding the 22 Safeway stores this year, which will ramp over about 6 months, that'll take us up to about $2.9 million in revenue.
I actually met a guy 2 weeks ago who actually only invests in pets businesses. They are
who does what?
Only invests in pet businesses.
Oh, okay.
It's actually a VC firm, and all the money comes from Mars. What is it called? It has some cliche name.
So
Let me just find that name.
Well, you just named. Sure.
Mars.
You just named one of the big three. Mars, Nestle, and Smuckers own 90% of the pet food market. And these are the guys that we're competing against. They own the whole life cycle.
It's called Canyon Fund.
Yep.
So
familiar with them.
Yeah, okay. I just met a guy who was just doing that the other week. I was like, is there really going to be enough businesses? But maybe there is. Okay, cool. And so you're based in Hawaii, doing good money. You want to raise about 2.5, which is sort of like depending on where you are, biggest seed round of small Series A. So it's fine. You're doing decent money. I guess it comes down to like how big the opportunity is and the usual types of things you want to know. But from your email, it sounds like, you see yourself as being an isolated geographic location and moving to the mainland. Is that weird or not? Which I don't think it is. And how do you deal with the fact that you're the key executive or the single founder, right?
Right.
Okay, well, if I break this into two things. First off, being a sole founder is an issue. It's not to say that people haven't not been successful. I mean, obviously, like, cliche example, Mark Zuckerberg, right, was technically a sole founder, but he got people on board pretty bloody quickly, right? To quote something my friend said today, talking about someone, you can't build $1 billion despicable me organization. You need real talent. And the problem for him is he's on a critical path for everything and has the bandwidth to not do anything. So the issue with not having capable co-founders who can do things is that you basically need to do everything. So your goal to ameliorate that one is either to get co-founders on, but you've already been in business for 5 years, or it's to get smiley, shiny faces who are going to join you for this round. So that can either be, ideally, they quit their jobs and they join now. If you can't necessarily afford them or they can't afford to take the cut on it, then it could be they'll join pending closing of the round. That's why I'm thinking. You just need to find happy, smiling faces who ideally have experience in scaling a business before. And so maybe that is stealing people from Pedigree or Mars, the two guys that you mentioned before, who have this experience on the mainland, if you will, and will provide credibility for you to expand. Does that kind of make sense?
It does. And we came from Texas. We lived on the mainland. I mean, this is just kind of a 5-year, 6-year journey for us. And all of the verticals that I have an experience in don't appear here. So discrete manufacturing, database marketing and geoanalytics, EPA, chem, petrochem, U.S. bankruptcy court, company turnarounds, mergers and acquisitions. So that's my background. Yeah. And what I'm pursuing now is a very strong board of directors. I have the previous CEO of Hawaiian Electric Business Cooperative. So they are the monopoly that provides utility services, renewable energy here. Yeah. And I'm also working on a retired executive from Safeway. So that's the grocery store business. Yeah. The way that I've always structured businesses is to hire the right people so that I can be disposable and move on and work, not in the company, but for the company, building the company. So right now, and we took 2 weeks vacation. I probably had 3 phone calls from the business, and we grew 34% last month.
That's fantastic. But obviously, once you take VC money, like before you get VC money, they want to know who the hell they're investing in and do they have safe hands. So,
yes,
like I can keep repeating everything, but, and it's simple advice, but it's hard to execute on. You basically just need to round out the team and show that you'll be able to scale it up to the extent that you give the credibility for it.
Agreed.
I can explain it in more detail, but it's just a pain
it's
got to deal with,
it's crystal clear. I worked in 2 startups. We raised A through D round in one and an A through C round in another. So I've done the dog and pony shows, but you're absolutely right. They want to know who the founders are. And
it's really important. So like the quote that I keep on saying like a parrot is from Mark Suster. It's just 75% of my investment decision is the team.
Right.
And so that's really what they're backing. I mean, like if you're super late stage, I mean, you obviously got a great team already, but they care in some regards less about the team than they do about the money, because you're making so much money, who cares? But if you haven't quite figured things out, then it's only the team that's going to figure things out if and when things go wrong.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway.
And we figured out the manufacturing process. We have recipes and plans and blueprints for how we build the business, literally the footprint rubber stamping for building it. But yes, having a chief financial officer on board, having somebody who has done the sales into the big stores would be nice, because I'm going to be busy fundraising.
Yeah, but even long term and just scaling the thing up, it would be good to have people really, kicking ass, right?
Absolutely.
The only way that you kick the competition's ass is that you just got better people at the end of the day, especially if you got large players. But I think it's relatively simple, but just really hard to deal with. So the point about you being one isolated geography, I mean, like there's so much, like America is basically populated with immigrants. So like the whole you coming from Hawaii thing, I don't really think is a big deal. Especially earlier stage, investors just care that you're in shouting distance. In other words, it's like a nasty way of saying driving distance, because they just want to be able to check up on you and sort of have a conversation, look into the office, blah, blah. So that's the main reason why investors will normally want you to be close, especially for younger founders who don't have a clue and are more likely to do stupid things, right? But, I don't really, unless you see differently, see a reason why expanding from Hawaii to New York is different from expanding from New York to the Bay Area. I mean, am I missing anything there?
No, not at all. And we've located a facility in Texas. We know we can get the protein and vegetable sources within a 250-mile radius. No corporate taxes, no state taxes, and there's a very high percentage of highly trained employee base around the Dallas-Fort Worth area that we could easily poach.
Yeah, exactly. So what about this is particularly stressing you out?
I just want with my pitch deck, I can but to be blunt, I'm on the autism spectrum. But what that means is that I can take a topic that I know nothing about, and because I speed read and I have that ability to retain and understand vast amounts of information, I became an expert in the FDA and the Food Safety Modernization Act regulations in about 3 weeks. Yeah. So that's just the nature of the condition. And I've done the dog and pony shows as the chief technology officer or senior VP. I just don't want to go in and have something in my slideshow or my deck missing because I've never pitched it as a chief financial officer. Okay. And I don't want it to be amateurish. I also know that right now I'm the only executive. So when I do pitch it to my customer base here, I've had customers ask me when I was raising $450,000 to open the new kitchen, their question was, why didn't you just come to us? We would have written you a check. Yeah. And the reason why is I just wanted bank loans. I didn't want to give away any equity at a $1.3 million revenue run. Sure. So that's the only reason why. But customers are more than willing, I think, if I ask and I have a good deck, that they probably would. I could probably raise $1.5 million pretty easily here, and they would love to see us grow and expand to the mainland. So let's face it, at the end of the day, it would be nice if investors liked you, but they don't really care. They want to make money, right? That's their business model. So what they don't want are, for example, but especially for younger guys, like non-coachable is a real reason a lot of my friends have passed on founders before. And that's where people have got a big ego. They think they know everything. They won't listen to anything. And that is like a big reason for people to pass. And what the typical word for it is non-coachable, like basically they don't listen. So that's a bad thing. So if you're willing to listen to people,
at least if they know what they're talking about, then that's a great starting point. Like if you are not the world's most charismatic person in the world, but you're great at running a business and you've shown that you can run a great business, then what's wrong with that? The people who run database companies and enterprise companies are not necessarily, stand-up comedians. It's like, I wouldn't be too stressed out about this stuff, because investors just want to, they get it. First part is getting over the fear that they're not going to lose their money on you and they were stupid for betting on you, right? And the next part is the greed part, is like, how much money is Gary going to make me? And it has to be enough money for them to make the returns in their fund, right? Which is why market sizing and all these things matter. And yeah, it would be great if they, you got on like a barrel of laughs, but it's so long as you don't not get on, that's good enough, right?
I agree.
So I wouldn't be too stressed about this. So long as you really know your business, is, everything about it, which doesn't sound like it's going to be a problem with you, you can kind of cover everything. So if you've got a decent financial model, and you've gone through a vigorous understanding of your business model strategy, and you've covered the basis of what happens if you become more successful, what happens if you end up being less successful than you thought, which actually happens quite a lot, and you've thought about everything, then that's very impressive. There's no reason why, if the market opportunity is there, that they would want to pass on you, right? But ultimately, they're investing in a team as opposed to a person, or ideally, right? So filling out your team wherever you think the gaps are is basically the key thing you might need to do. But I wouldn't be too worried about, the fact that you've always been a CTO or a CFO type person as opposed to CEO, so long as that your personality suits your business model. Like if you were building a big social media company or like a TV channel or something, you need to be world's biggest personality, then yeah, maybe that might be a concern, but like you're not, right?
Right.
So that stuff I wouldn't really be stressed out too much. Like if you really know your stuff, why would someone not want to invest in you?
Yep. So I think the two key positions that I'm looking to fill now are that chief financial officer, only because I know it, but I know that it's not my key strength.
Yeah.
My key strength is in taking an operation and scaling it.
Yeah.
And as a CTO, is being up 100% of the time, even though you're not. That should be the perception of the customers, that you're never down. So the other key person that I want is somebody that has the skills in advertising and marketing. So they need to understand the analytics. They need to understand what our customer demographic looks like. And when they go into a grocery store, they can, like I did in Safeway, they can say, our customer visits your store every 13 days. Your customer visits every 23 days. Our card value is 109, yours is 35. And our demographic is the same as yours. So we can get our customers in your store twice as often, and they're going to upsell on something. They're not just there to get dog food. And being in 2 aisles in a grocery store gives us a couple different price points. So once you're in a Safeway or once you're in a chain grocery store, the only other competition you have is Primal Pet Food. They're the only ones that are in that premium category. So somebody's already made the decision to bring in a pet food in frozen. Yeah. And now here's something that comes along that's local, transparent. We don't use kill steps in our process like high pressure pasteurization. And customers are more and more demanding about reading the label and understanding all the ingredients.
Yeah.
And that's ideal. We have not advertised in the entire time we've been open. And our wholesale business last year, we grew 141%, the year before 136%. And we do retail as kind of an educational tool. We start the customer into the process, get them over the fears, and then they move on to our retail partners to buy their product in the long term. And that said, our annual run rate on our subscriptions, where we physically ship to the customer, now is $363,000 a year. So a little over a third.
Yeah.
Yep. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, the financials and the financial models prove their worth. We're seeing more and more people less trusting of their veterinarians. They don't want to go the symptom and then prescribe a medication. They realize that meds aren't the answer, and there must be other ways to approach the food. And once somebody's dog is healed, they become more than a satisfied customer. They become a fanatical representative for us.
Sure.
On average, they tell about 120 people about the success that they've had.
Really?
It's just, and our customers here, as an example, we have 2 farmers markets, and those are educational portals.
Yeah.
When a customer's on the fence, we'll just give them a bag or a box of food and say, take it home, try it, stop feeding kibble for a couple weeks. This one's on us. And a couple weeks later, we'll get a check in the mail, or they'll call us and they'll want to pay for the food. Even though we've just given it to them for free, that's the kind of customer base we have. And once we've got them, they will not leave. We don't try to drive them away, of course, but
no, of course not. But, my parents have got 2 dogs. I don't have them at the moment, but my friend in Malaysia, who's an investor / venture builder there, actually from Germany of all places, actually makes this stuff himself at home, and has said to me, a couple of times in the past years that he just wants to build a business out of this. Actually, so even just in America, I think there's actually, beyond the shores, there's opportunity for this. That's just, one random interaction that I've had with people where, they actually want to do something just like what you're doing in Asia.
Well, the big market's actually Europe. They're a $20 billion a year pet food consumer. The U.S. is about, in the raw and freeze-dried categories, about $24 billion in the U.S., $20 billion in Europe. And then you trickle down to single digits in Asia Pacific, Japan. Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong are the 3 biggest Asia Pacific markets. And then most of the others are, billion or into the millions. But they're rapidly growing. It's a big market, and it's getting the notice of the Mars, the Smuckers, and Nestle. Those are the 3 big pet food manufacturers.
Yeah.
Those guys are also buying pet hospitals. So the Banfield pet hospitals are in Petco, and the VCA animal hospital chain nationwide. They write the curriculum for veterinarians. So they tell the veterinarian what to think. They tell the veterinarian what food to prescribe when a dog comes in with an illness. And then they also own the veterinary clinic. So they own the full life cycle. And this has been a recent development in the past 6 months. So they feel the pressure from the raw food movement, and that's a good thing. And I guess finally, there was a documentary on Netflix called Pet Fooled, and it was about all of the things that people they just don't know what goes on in the dry pet food industry.
Yeah.
We're being featured in Pet Fool 2, which will release at the end of the year. It's about companies who do it right. And when that happens, we have to be poised to meet the demand. And there are 6 companies that are in the documentary. And those guys we're just going to get killed. And we know it's coming.
So what else you stuck with?
Right now, I guess for me, it's how do I represent myself on a slide? I know I've listened to some of your podcasts. It's listing the companies that you worked with and maybe a brief snippet of the roles that you've had, none of which points to pet food manufacturing for me. Discrete manufacturing, yes. Chem, petrochem, yes. EPA and those, but nothing really. I mean, this is my first foray into any type of food manufacturing. So if they're going to have a question about me, that is probably going to be it.
Okay, so with this stuff, I wouldn't stress out. So that for any slide, don't just write like team. You write like, vast amount of experience in something, blah, blah. whatever your experience is in. So like you categorize it for them. Then you have like a nice pretty picture at the top of you. Then you have your name and then your title, whatever, founder. And then you want to have like a couple of bullet points. If it's basically you on the slide, ideally you want to put something else on it, right? You just want to focus on what's particularly impressive about you. So like, I don't know, if you're from China and you won the math competition, right? That's impressive, right? It may not be directly, related to your business right now, but it still makes you look like an exceptional person. So you just need to figure out whatever is particularly interesting about you that might set you up to be a success for what you're doing now. So just think about what you've actually done and then list it out and then cut down all the drivel you just wrote and get to the point. And just share like your sort of key achievements today. It doesn't have to be directly related to this business right now, just to show that you're, a fundable person. But, keep it to the point, because you can always talk about yourself in more detail and you can always provide a biography or you can provide a LinkedIn profile. But in the purposes of your pitch deck, your sole goal at the start is get me a meeting. So you send them a pitch deck by email or whatever, and they're like, okay, they're solving the dog food problem. They're solving this problem with allergies. They're solving it with raw food. The market size is really large and it's growing, but it's totally underpenetrated. The competition are these big guys, but they're doing things differently to what we're doing. This is me. Here's a pretty picture of me. Here are the key things I've achieved. And then you have like a traction slide to show that, I may not have done manufacturing before, but I already make $800,000 a year doing manufacturing. You know what I mean?
Yep. Okay.
So you don't have to like overthink all these things too much, right? I would spend more time thinking about like presentation of your traction or your go-to-market plan or, more things like that, because ultimately the team slide in a way is interesting and uninteresting, because it's only interesting that, whatever he worked at. So like, even if you were like the Silicon Valley prototypical perfect of Stanford computer science and Google and Facebook, right? You look at the slide and you go, okay, they're probably smart, and you move on, right? It's not actually that interesting. So when you get in a room with someone and you're explaining what you've done, that's kind of more where people are going to figure out if they think you're stupid or not, right? So like a team slide, I wouldn't overthink too much. Just think about what's particularly impressive in you, show that you know what you're doing, that you're in safe hands, that that you've got large ambitions. And that's kind of enough. Like it's not a slide where I would freak out too much.
Okay.
Even if you're a 22-year-old and you hadn't that much experience, you can still get funded, right? Because you show that you've thought through the potential for what your business is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I just wouldn't think about it too much.
And I know that VCs tend to want and most likely will put one of their team members into your management infrastructure.
No.
So really, that's, my experience with that is probably over 10 or 12 years old. That was during or just before the .com bust. What I saw is they either wanted to put a chief financial officer in, or they wanted to put somebody a little closer than arm's length to make sure that you were a good steward of their money.
No, that's not really true. So they'll help you recruit through their network, but that sounds a bit more like private equity style stuff.
Okay.
There's no way, like VCs will invest in 30 companies. You think they've got 30 henchmen to kind of put into your company? Like, fuck no. Of course not. Right. So, I mean, the more valuable you are to them, the more they're going to pay attention, right? So if you start becoming $1 billion company and they think you're going to be a $10 billion company, then they're sure as hell going to pay attention, right? And make sure that things are going to plan. So, one of the key things that you can get out of a VC as a value add, if you will, is actually network. So it can be business development, it can be recruitment for your team, and everything else is sort of bullshit. But if they can make introductions for you, that's super valuable. So if you're okay, I've achieved a lot all by myself. Imagine what I could do if I had a bigger team. I want to expand up. Part of what I want from a VC is to have access to talent in the manufacturing space or something who will help me to scale this up.
Well, I mean, all of that is straightforward. I guess I just needed to hear that from you one more time.
Yeah.
Because you've only said it a couple 100,000 times in your videos, so I guess saying it directly to me makes it stick. But yeah.
But you know what?
No, you're right. I mean, you're absolutely spot on because, yeah, that's what they want to know. I get hit by a bus. What happens?
Yeah.
Who else is left in the company to manage it? I was told a long time ago, you can either be rich or you can be the king, but you have to pick one. And if you want to be the king, generally VCs aren't going to want to deal with you because you're such a royal pain in the egotistical ass.
Yeah.
They want to know that you can delegate and give up responsibilities. And, that's what GE trained me for. So I think I'm good with that one. Yep.
Yeah. But cool. It sounds like you've got a nice little business now, and we'll see how big you can get next.
Okay. Well, Thank you for your time. I know we've gone over a little bit, but
no worries.
I really appreciate it.
No worries, Gary. Best of luck, and let me know how you get on.
All right, you'll be seeing my first stage pitch deck pretty soon because I would like a good seasoned set of eyes to make it not suck as much.
Sure. Okay.
All right. Cheers.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye.